A couple of months ago, I was invited by Glorium Tech to deliver this talk and learned that y'all are either startup CTOs or around the path to be. I also understood that I would have about 30 minutes to deliver something of high value to you, and my intrusive instinct was to mosaic together all the tools, stories, methodologies, and try to cram that into this time, and don't worry, I didn't. I really thought about you and thought what would be most valuable to you because each one of you represents the driving force behind innovation and technological advancements in our ecosystem. As startup CTOs, you hold the key to unlocking potentials that your organization could hold. Now, like you, I've worked in startups, and depending on the platform you're on, you might be able to show me a thumbs up if you agree with some of these statements, which I'm saying that startups are fast paced, they're rapidly changing, continually scrappy. And I've been in tech too, and that's not any slower. As a CTO, regardless of industry, that's going to be high pressure. So startups are fast, tech is faster, and you as CTOs in tech startups need to stay ahead of that pace in order to be successful. And neither school nor life teach you how to maintain such high performance for a sustainable distance. So that's what we'll talk about today. Now, Zen's a broad topic, startup management is a broad topic. So the way we're going to navigate this is I'm going to start with a summary of everything we're going to cover. Then I'll share a bit about myself. We'll dive into each of those topics. And at the end, I'll tie everything together. And with that, let's jump into the first slide. Let's start by taking a moment to reflect on the essence of Zen. For me, it's simply bringing calm to chaos. And to articulate how that relates to startup management, here's how we're going to explore Zen. In the evolving landscape of startups, finding moments of stillness becomes vital. It's in these moments that we gather our thoughts, recenter ourselves, and make the right decisions amidst the chaos that surrounds us. To achieve this Zen state, it's crucial to start by focusing on ourselves. As CTOs, we bear the responsibility of leading our organizations with strength and clarity. However, in the pursuit of success, it's easy to neglect our own personal growth and well being. By investing our time and effort in our own development, we can become those better leaders capable of steering our companies towards greatness. Once we fortified ourselves, then it's time to carry the principles of Zen to our organizations. And that's where we'll talk about the concept of non-attachment and the importance of learning to delegate effectively. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's by empowering our teams we create an environment that fosters creativity, innovation, and growth. And the path to success isn't, however, a solitary one. It's through our teams that we can truly make an impact. That's why we need to focus on inspiring and motivating our team members by fostering open communication, encouraging collaboration, and creating a safe zone for failure. We can cultivate this culture of continuous learning and improvement as such. It's these principles of Zen that can guide us on this journey of leading tech startups. And as we navigate the challenges and seize the opportunities that come our way, let's not forget the moments of stillness, both within ourselves and within our organizations, that by embracing Zen in our personal lives, we can carry it to our companies, inspire our teams, we can create a harmonious and purposeful ecosystem that can withstand any storm. Once again, Zen is bringing calm to chaos. So here's how we'll navigate to find that calm. First, we'll get you some breathing room from your environment. In the speed and chaos of tech and startups, let's get you up for air for just a moment before we dive back in. Then, we need to first focus on you, because that's where your command over the world around you stems from. Once you have yourself in order, then we can talk about your company or product. I mean, that's the lifeblood that keeps you alive in the market. It's also why we talk about you and the environment first. Finally, we'll talk about carrying this to your people, because until they see you leading by example, they're going to hear Zen and think, great, more Silicon Valley woo-woo fluff getting added to our principles or mission statement, right? So when they see you applying what you've learned from this talk, hopefully you're going to be a little less stressed. Maybe you might be a little more grounded. Perhaps you'll be more present in the problems you're dealing with and able to have more clarity, and ambitiously, maybe you'll have a new grasp on your business. Now, once they see these effects in you, they're going to lean in and ask how they can get there too. So with that, let's get started. My name is Tanmay Kayande. I'm the CTO of Respond Crisis Translation. That's a multinational nonprofit bringing language justice and aid to parts of the world that need it most. In parallel, I'm also a product operations manager over at Google, where I'm also an advocate for AI ethics and also a mentor for early stage startups from pre-seed to Series A. And that's all cool. But my real flex, though, is despite all that, I still get 7 hours of sleep. But it wasn't always like this, though. I remember early on in my career, I had a calendar packed to the brim. I'm talking 80, 100-hour weeks, working through dinners, stress bloomed, anxiety flourished, and I remember thinking, how can I scale to the next level if I'm currently struggling at this one? And just because I'm busy doesn't mean I'm being productive, right? Now, I'm the type of person who'd rather find a solution than talk about my feelings. So when I was at this point, I went seeking a solution, and that's where I stumbled onto Zen. One last time. Zen was finding calm in the chaos. I figured if I can do that, then managing myself in the tech startup, growing my career, that would be way more manageable. And the thing I like most about Zen is that it accepts that chaos is bound to happen. So rather than fighting something so inevitable, it shows here's how you float with it. I'd like you to remember when you first started in your role. Show me a thumbs up if you were excited. Yeah? Mostly clear calendar, kind of empty inbox, maybe a Slack channel dedicated to pet pictures of your fur babies, right? And then what happened? The chaos of the market disrupted your calm. And it makes sense that it would. I mean, you had to understand the current state of the market. You formed a vision of here's where your company is going to go from a tech standpoint. And you saw there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen to get there, including parts currently unknown. Show me a thumbs up if you're the kind of leader who gets out there on the front lines with your people, helping knock down the obstacles and tasks standing in the way of your vision. See, and that's a noble thing, that your people see that you're not shy of getting your hands dirty. That carries, however, an inherent risk. They need you to see the forest as they knock down the trees and build the path forward. They need you to see the environment and the path ahead so they have to do the least effort while maximizing company progress. One of the key tenets of Zen is the practice of non-attachment. Of course you want to be involved in every aspect of your business. I mean, that's why you brought in brilliant people. You might feel like the only way to do something right or get something done is if you do it yourself. But as an individual, you have finite capacity. With people, though, you have leverage and scale. Trying to hold on to every task is going to lead to overwork, stress, and a lack of focus on that bigger picture. Delegating to your team, however, frees up your time to focus on the strategic planning and growth. And you might think, well, easier said than done, my guy. I'll share a quick story with you to illustrate how the Zen practice applies to startup management. It's from this book called Turn That Ship Around. It's by U.S. Navy Captain David Marquet. He was assigned command of the USS Santa Fe, a submarine you'll see on the screen. The Santa Fe at the time was one of the worst performing crews in the Navy, and the captain was brought in to fix this. With a single command and a little bit of time, the Santa Fe went from being one of the worst crews to one of the best. So what happened? When Captain Marquet joined the crew, he saw the crew would ask for direction and permission to do any of their tasks. I'm talking even the ones they'd done tons of times. Now, we're going to speculate maybe the old captain needed things done in a certain way or wanted to offer his guidance, wisdom, direction if he thought anything could be better. Regardless, I'm betting that he was probably stressed beyond belief, that he had so many decisions to make, and not only his own tasks, but helping his crew finish their tasks too. Captain Marquet, however, had a different approach. His one command to the crew was simple. The crew will now tell the captain in present tense, I am going to do X. And unless there was a reason to disagree or investigate, he would affirm with a simple copy. This led to significant improvements in both performance and morale. The crew started to trust themselves and could proactively make smarter and faster decisions. This book in general is a powerful reminder that leadership isn't a one-person job, but rather it's a team effort. And creating that culture of ownership, accountability, this can lead to transformative results. And this practice of non-attachment, at first it's going to feel uncomfortable. However, you're going to be surprised by when you take your hand off the wheel just a little bit, how well things go. Now, it's going to give you one of the biggest benefits you're going to immediately see. It's going to give you more time to focus on the things which matter most. But understand, for example, like better understanding your environment or executing a more refined vision. This in general was the macro. Let's take this on a more personal level. Show me a thumbs up if you wish you had a magic wand to get people to stop being defensive when they disagree with you. Yeah, you'll want to take note of this next Zen principle. It's very straightforward. It's called active mindful listening. I'll tell you how it works in a moment, and because I need to start with the reason why, of all the things we could talk about today, I think this skill is the most important to finding Zen on a personal level. It's based on how broadly you can use this, whether it's the people in your personal or professional life, and you might already have someone in mind that's quick to get defensive or knows exactly how to push your buttons. Remember, you're here to make clear, effective, efficient decisions. And getting into arguments steals your peace and hinders your ability to do that. It steals your time. What's the point of getting more time if you have to spend it fighting? Later, we're going to talk about how Zen affects the people around you. But for now, we're going to get into that skill, active mindful listening. Here's how it works. Next time you find yourself butting heads with someone, take a breath. Listen without the intent to immediately respond. You will eventually, but pause that urge to have that immediate response. Really tune in to what the other person has said and listen in such a way that you're going to summarize what they said and repeat it back to them in a way that they say, yes, that's right. Remember, you're not agreeing with their perspective. You're simply stating it back in a neutral way that's agreeable to that person. Once that person agrees to your restatement, then you can address that perspective. That's it. And this works like magic because it separates the person from the perspective. From there, you two can work together against the problem instead of against each other. It's a sad but true fact that people really aren't used to being heard. I mean, notice in the interactions around you, how many people are truly listening to what you're saying versus how many of them are just waiting for their chance or turn to speak. See, when they do that, their mind doesn't consider the implications or depth of what the other person's truly saying. And you, once again, you don't have to agree. But if you can articulate what they said back in a neutral and here's an advanced skill, more better way or more concise way, you'll drop their defenses. That yes, that's right part. That's something I found really helpful from this book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. He was the former FBI lead hostage negotiator. Let me say that again. The lead hostage negotiator of the FBI used active mindful listening in some of the most high-stakes situations a person can be faced with. Let's bring this back to you. Can you imagine yourself in your company with this newfound superpower to diffuse a situation before it gets heated? Show me a thumbs up, just for fun, if you already have someone in mind you're going to try this out on. So with non-attachment, we talked about before, we got you more time. With mindful listening, we talked about diffusing conflicts. And both of these got us ready to finally talk about bringing Zen to your product or business. To start, it's important to acknowledge that the market generally tends to favor businesses and products that align with its demands, right? That product gap. If you're meeting it, then there you go. While this isn't always the case, there's a pretty good correlation between understanding the market and the rewards it returns. Generally, you'll see fixing pains adds way more value than improving gains. By addressing the needs and desires of your target audience, you can create user-centered solutions that truly resonate with the people you serve. This means we need to use non-attachment to let go of the preconceptions we have of what the customer wants and show a genuine commitment to actively listen to their feedback. We need to really listen to what the customer actually needs and deploy what Chris Voss, the same guy, calls tactical empathy to make sure that the customer feels understood. It's also important to embrace failure as an integral part of the process. Failure should only be viewed as an expected risk rather than some sort of mark of incompetence or inadequacy, and recognize that as you iterate and refine your business or product, you're not always going to be right. However, it's through these failures that valuable lessons are learned, leading to growth and improvement. Understanding this inherent risk in the process, it's going to help you navigate with a resilient mindset. Once that understanding is set, then we can build. Then we can iterate. Don't fail fast and fail often, thinking that's what it means to be agile. That path leads to short-term chaos and long-term burnout as it focuses on only the failures. Pursue long-term perfection and in failing settle for excellence. Embracing failure in the pursuit of perfection is not simplistic or an easy path. It It requires dedication, resilience, and a willingness to learn from those setbacks. It aligns this Zen approach that values the journey and the growth that comes from confronting and overcoming challenges. Both paths are going to be hard, no matter which one you take, but you can choose your hard. And any attempt to try is going to be risking failure. But that's why it's worth it. This idea of striving for a higher ideal and embracing the failures on that path, that's that Zen approach. Now, we're a little limited on time today, so we're not going to be able to get into finding the beauty of imperfections, highlighting them by, for example, turning bugs into features. But know this: embracing failure in the pursuit of perfection involves continual improvement, iterations, and experimentations to reflect a changing market. To underline this idea, failure is an expected risk, not an expected outcome. As that settles in, let's finally set our attention to your teams. You're about to see how everything we've spoken about so far has prepared us to talk about people management in a tech startup environment. Listen, managing people is never an easy task. However, some of the Zen principles we've spoken about can help build an aligned, cohesive team. Remember when we talked about Captain Marquet aligning his crew to his vision and using non-attachment to get out of their way? Well, you and your crew are all in the same boat. You've brought in brilliant people. You need to trust them to do their thing. Demonstrate and foster that open communication. Kim Scott, who wrote the book on radical candor. Radical candor she defined as that's where an organization should strive for a culture of trust and transparency, where team members feel comfortable sharing their ideas, concerns, feedbacks, all without a fear of condemnation or retaliation. There's no reason why a person at the lower ranks of an organization shouldn't be able to tell someone at the upper echelon of an organization, hey, I think this idea is a little out of touch with what I think reality is. That open dialogue will keep things sharp. With a non-attachment to any idea, mindfully listening to what your team is truly trying to voice, and deploying that tactical empathy to make sure your team feels understood, your company will reap the seeds you sow. Your team, by doing so, will feel valued and motivated to contribute to your company's collective success, and you'll increase your team's morale, unity, and sense of purpose. Seeing your perspective on embracing failure, it's also going to initiate constructive feedback loops. And this, in turn, will encourage experimentation and innovation, leading to faster iterations and better outcomes for your business. Now, your team is going to emulate themselves as an extension of you. So once they see you doing it, then you're going to see more cross-collaboration, and they'll start using these Zen principles and start embracing them. As a bonus, there's one final principle that underlies everything that's come so far. Across all these topics, find simplicity. When it comes to your vision, mission, process, product, people, let it permeate everything. Simplicity in its essence is about stripping away the unnecessary layers, eliminating the clutter, and focusing on what truly matters. It's about distilling those complex ideas and processes into their purest forms. This allows for greater clarity and greater efficiency. Now, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to talk about first principles or systems thinking approaches, so I'll share one last quick story before we wrap everything up. It highlights how simplicity isn't about oversimplifying complex problems or ignoring important details. It's about distilling the essence of that complexity into its most meaningful and actionable components. It's about finding elegance and creating an environment that fosters focus and clarity and effectiveness. So here's a quick story, and then I'll wrap everything up. A little bit after World War II ended, skyscrapers around America were getting built all over the country. People started complaining that the elevators were taking too long to go up and down. Now, this is a complex problem. Complex solution would be to build faster elevators. Some Zen engineer came along and figured out that the simple solution, get this, was to just install mirrors inside the elevators. If people are distracted by checking out their own reflection, they won't notice the time as it passes. Now, think about any of the mirrors or any of the elevators that you've seen or used recently in the past maybe couple days. If you notice a mirror in there, that's where it came from. As startup CTOs, embracing this simplicity lets us approach old problems with a new lens. It empowers us to lead with intention, make informed decisions, and inspire our team to reach new heights. So let's take a deep breath and bring everything together. We've covered a lot in this bit of time. We started talking about how Zen finds calm in the chaos. Then we spent some time focused on your company's environment, you, the company or product itself, and then your team. The topics I touched and the stories I shared leave the door open for leagues of depth, but for the limit of time. The actual practice that I shared, however, can be immediately applied. Try them out in earnest without expectations, and you'll be surprised by how such simple things can work so well. You might see this theme pop up in some of the other talks today, too. When you set your sights from where you are to where you're trying to be and ruthlessly remove everything unconducive to reaching that point, you'll have the luxury of space and time to do what you want instead. As you manage your startup, you'll find calm amidst the chaos. And that is Zen and the art of startup management. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanmay. This was very interesting, very cool of putting Zen into the startup CTO role. Thank you very much for the insights and looking forward to talk to you later in the day.
Thank you.